I am Todd Bookspan, founder of Win by Noon and Mortgage Coach's #1 fan. So I'm super excited to be here. We're going to do our official launch momentarily when we push out on Zoom. And then we'll get everyone introduced because we got a superstar panel today. We've got lots of great things that we are going to be talking about. And I believe we should be live up. It looks like we got our Zoom folks in here now. And so,
we're live everywhere.
I'm going to officially start. So those of you who already heard the official start, I'm Todd Bookspan from Win by Noon. Welcome to Friday's Productivity Mastermind. Yes, I don't have much of a voice. I had the honor last week to speak with none other than Jen Duplessis back in Atlanta. And I also spoke in Dallas and in Phoenix, and back a little horse in the voice. And so super excited today. So of course, Jen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we were just talking about who gave this to whom, because I have a sore throat and a hoarse voice as well. So yeah, it was just so fun. You know, it always is. We met last year at NAMBA, and this year we got to reconnect again and hang out together and tried to get you to dance, but you weren't interested. But we had a good time, right? We hung out with a lot of powerful people that we had a lot of fun with. And it was just fun. It was really fun. And I can't wait to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it here in a minute.
Awesome. And who's sitting there to your left?
This is my daughter, Whitney Duplessis, also.
Yes.
I know. And
soon to be Anderson. So yeah, I'm getting married in the fall, so it'll change.
Yep. So we're filled with lots of bridal activities. Yes. But do you want me to introduce her now, or do you want me to introduce her when it's her turn?
I want you to introduce her in a minute, because what I really want to do is our final guest of the day. You know, I feel like there would be a drum roll, but if I bang on my desk, then my camera will start shaking. But we've got the winner of the 3010 contest, whatever you want to call that, but none other than Bliss Sawyer. What's up, Bliss?
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for the virtual drum roll.
Thank you.
You know, it was awesome to see you. Of course, I'm partial because not only are you a friend, but you're a Win by Noon user. To see you crushing it, and you were battling out neck and neck with a couple of other Win by Noon power users, Emma Dempsey, Katie Pastor, and there was a ton of other folks that were in there. But real quick, report out to the group what your numbers were.
Okay, so I had to write it down. So I did 875 phone calls. So outbound. Those are outbound unsolicited phone calls, and I did 82 TCAs. So the most I've ever done in a month, bar none. I've never pushed myself like that. And what's crazy is we are now on track to close 17 in May. And so it really exploded. I mean, I wish you could honestly compare it what we would have done if I hadn't done that, because I'm sure May still would have been a good month, right? And you don't know exactly what came from all of that. I actually did a lot of TCAs to past clients that I had closed to kind of show them what their payment would look like if they paid extra, that kind of thing. So obviously those things don't directly result into new leads and new loans, but overall it just created so much momentum. It was amazing.
Right.
So 17 loans, that's awesome too. What's been your average closing per month up till now?
So I did 110 in 2018 and 109 in 2017. Right. And I pretty much mostly purchased business. I did have a couple of refinances in April, but most of my business is purchase. So yeah, my goal is 150. So, about 12 to 15 a month. So to have 17 in a month is phenomenal.
So you averaged about 8.5 per month last 2 years, and here you are closing double that next month. So it kind of proves that little adage that activities lead to results.
Well, and it's crazy because I teach it all the time too. You don't get immediate results when you do things. You can't get discouraged when you're making lots and lots and lots of phone calls. And you can't get discouraged. Like if I were to compare myself with Jeremy Forcier, who closed 32 last month and made a whole lot less phone calls than I did, that would be discouraging, right? Or if you say there's no way I'm going to make 875 phone calls, well, guess what? I'm not going to make that either in May. Absolutely not. Right? But it's okay to pick a big, hairy audacious goal that you do for a short time. And that's what was super cool about that challenge. I got my team involved as far as supporting me and checking up on me and pushing me and all of that.
So I have a couple of questions too, Todd. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, again, and we've talked about this before about, in productivity, is the consistency of doing this, and so yeah, you did this one thing. So 874, right? Outbound calls?
875. Don't forget about that last phone call.
Right. Yeah.
You want to be specific about those numbers. Yeah. 875
outbound calls. So the question I have for you is, in your database, do you have the capacity to do that again this month? To not just make it a one and done, but, have that consistency so that you'd be able to see where these results would trickle in over the next couple of months? Because I really feel that, if you can be consistent, the question is, can you be consistent 800? At some point your database is going to dry up, right? You're not
it actually wasn't that difficult to find people to call because I had 2 classes I was teaching. So I did a bunch of phone blitz out to people. But here's the thing. I'm not going to put in that effort, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
But I can look at what I was doing before. I probably should have looked that number up.
Someplace in the center. Yeah.
Right. Because I was probably doing about, 240, 250 calls a month, 60 a week, I think was my goal, 30 to client or prospects and 30 to real estate agent. So somewhere between 250 and 875 would definitely be reasonable. I also take a lot of time in the summer away from the office where I work, right. But I only react for about 6 weeks. Right. And so this momentum that I create in like March and April really pushes and makes it so my team doesn't see a big dip down in September, October, because I take that 6 weeks or so. And so, that's, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah. Well, and I think, your future is always a series of nows, right? So it's like, what are we doing now to create that for our future? And, so that's what I was excited about, was to hear that, you're going to continue, maybe not at the lower level, but a mid-level, just to kind of test it. And then I wanted to ask you, what were you saying? Because I know a lot of people on the call are probably thinking that it's like, okay, what does she say to 874 people that if it wasn't just your database and it was everybody else, what was your phone call like?
Well, so first of all, I called all the people I've ever closed in the month of April. I went back 5 years. So those are, hey, how's it going? Happy anniversary on your mortgage. Then I looked back at all the prospects I've had over the last few months, and even if just followed up on them. Hey, how's it going? Do you have any questions? That kind of thing. And then again, like I said, with real estate agents, I taught 2 different classes, one at the beginning of the month and one at the end. So that's limitless, right? We've got, 2,300 agents in my area. I'm certainly not going to call all of them, but I have a pretty large group of agents that at least know and recognize my name. So it's pretty easy for me to pick up the phone and just say, hey, would love to have you come in my class. Are you available? And then also following up, when I follow up with prospects, I also follow up with their agent. So it's just always looking for opportunities to make another phone call. And it kind of look different every day.
Yeah. So Bliss, where are you located again? Aren't you Midwest?
I'm in Utah. Just a little south.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious. Yeah. Just a great job. And I think the lesson here is that we all have the capacity to be able to do this, and we need to keep our antennas up, right, on a daily basis on who can I call next? Who could I call? Who could I reach out to? Who can I engage with? Nurture, right? There's past, present, future.
All of this. Oh, sorry. I think all of it started because Dave was in somebody's office and they were having a challenge in their office, right, with each other.
Yeah.
And so create your own challenge. Maybe even do it with your real estate agents and create a challenge, and maybe not do it for a whole month. That's pretty intense. And honestly, I knew I wasn't going out of town in the month of April. I knew it would work for me to do that, but maybe you just take it on for a week or even a 1-day challenge with your real estate agents. Make it a game, make it fun, have some prizes. I think it'd be really cool to do this as a marketing thing with your realtors to help their business grow. Yeah, I actually hadn't thought about that before. I think
no, that's a good idea. And you just reminded me that we actually used to do that. We brought a bell into the office, and we brought our realtors into the office so that we said, okay, who are we calling? What are we going to say? We kind of set it up, and then we dispersed into the various offices of other loan officers who weren't there at the time. Mm-hmm. And we did so you can steal this idea. We did a business booster blitz.
Okay, I'm writing that
down. It was a phone blitz that we did for half a day with our realtors. So it was a business booster blitz.
I love it.
And, and it was just encouraging each other. And there was a little competition between the realtors. And we did the same thing. We said, but by the way, we're not going to be calling you guys, so don't worry. Right? But yeah, it was really, really successful. And we actually did it every single quarter. And I know most of you know Dave Stevens, who, was the CEO of Mortgage Bankers Association. He's one of my dear friends. And he did it. This is how far this goes back. This is probably 20 years ago that we did this on a regular basis, and it was fantastic.
And you can brand it for yourself as
Blair's Business Booster Blitz.
Bliss.
I'm sorry, Bliss's Business Booster Blitz. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That would not be true. Yeah.
All right, so let me ask 2 strategy questions, Bliss. Number one, because if Dave was here, he'd be going back in on the fact that you said you sent TCAs to your clients who weren't in a position to refi, showing them what extra principal payments would look like. Were you doing that ahead of the call? Were you doing it as a result of a phone call? What did that look like?
Yeah, so yeah, let's talk about TCAs for a minute, because that was one portion of the TCAs I did. So I would actually have my assistant, she would do a block of 10 at a time. So we went to the most recent 10 closings, and then when I was done with those, she went to the 10 more. I think I did maybe 20 between 20 and 25 of those. And so she would set it up for me. And then what I would do is I would shoot a short video, but then a lot of times after closing, they don't really pay attention to your emails as well, because it could just be junk, right? So then I just picked up the phone and said, hey, just sent you some information on what it looks like if you were to pay extra on your mortgage, just some numbers for you to ponder. Let me know if you have any questions after you look at it. Super simple. I actually kept my fingers crossed that I'd get their voicemail, because that just makes it go faster. Right? And there's really not a reason to talk with them. In the email with the actual link to the Mortgage Coach TCA, I did ask for referrals. So, all of it is business building. I don't like spending a lot of time on the phone asking for referrals. I do sometimes, but it just makes the phone calls longer. And I had to do things really quickly to get this much done.
Well, I love that, because you also have their TCA set up for next year when you do their annual mortgage review, because it's already got their original information in it.
Yeah. And then I also looked back at past prospects, especially people that I had talked to in November, December, and January, because rates have dropped. So then I did a new mortgage coach. I didn't want to go over the old one. I wanted them to be able to compare the two, and just said, hey, no, you haven't found a house yet, or I know you're still working on your credit, or whatever their situation was, but here's new numbers to be thinking about. And so I went back and did quite a few for that as well.
So if you worked 5 days a week for the month, you averaged over 40 calls a day.
I did.
How did you squeeze that in? Was it one big, you're like, I'm going to dial till I get my 40 calls done? Was it, hey, I'm going to dial for 3 hours? How did you schedule?
So first of all, my team. So I have a production manager, Christine. I have her about 25 hours a week. I have a loan partner, and then I have a processor, and we're all very physically near each other in the office space. And so I told them about the challenge, and I said, honestly, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is with your guys' help, meaning take as much off of me as you can, which is our goal anyways. And then also you encouraging me, because sometimes I would come out of my office and I'd be like, if I have to make one more phone call, I don't know what I'm going to do. And literally what day was it? Tuesday. I'm like, I'm never picking up my phone again. I'm done. That's it. Right. And I have picked up my phone since then. So really it was just having my team on board with me doing it. And then, it's with any goal, because I've had some crazy big goals in the past before that I didn't think I could do. You find the time, you get creative, you fit more into the time you have. Yeah, you know what? I probably did work more hours than normal in the month of April, But guess what? I'm okay with that because I know there's time when later this year when I'm going to be working about 2 hours a day. Right. And, I'm perfectly fine with that. But I still, I have a university class I was taking. I still bike. I still do other things. So it wasn't my entire life. But I did come in a little bit earlier to get my day organized so that I could hit the ground running with my phone calls.
Awesome. Well, I think that's key, right? If you're not planning for the day and who you're going to call, then it's going to take twice as long.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, Coach Bill Hart always talks about Parkinson's law, and that's the law that time will expand for the time available, meaning we've all been there where we said, okay, gosh, you know what, I got to get this done and I only have 2 hours. Normally we would lollygag and it might take us, 3 or 4 or 5 hours, but when you only have a certain amount of time, you can squeeze a whole lot more in if you're super intentional about it.
I completely believe that, and I just proved it, right? 40 calls a day to most people, they'll be like, well, I don't have time for that. Well, how many loans are you closing? I'm closing 5 loans a month. Well, you do have time, right? It's just, those aren't things we like to do. They're not super fun. It's not immediately rewarding to do those things. And so we find other things to fill our time. And so I just got super dialed in. Oh, it's a pun on it.
That's great.
I love it. So if you guys have any questions for Bliss, go ahead and throw them in Facebook Live. She's going to
or in our chat. I just asked everyone to pop some questions in there as well.
Perfect. So if you guys have any questions, let us know. Bliss, are you going to be able to hang out here for a bit?
Yeah, I can be.
Awesome. And so we also have our special guest, Whitney Duplessis. So I'm going to let Jen introduce her daughter as a proud mom and take it
away. She told me not to cry because I'm such a crybaby. No, it's my honor and privilege to be able to introduce my daughter, Whit Duplessis. She's with MGIC, and I'm sorry, I got distracted because she's holding my dog, and my dog just growled because she moved.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. She's been with MGIC a little over 2 years and has really elevated herself, 3 years, oh my gosh, and has elevated herself to, one of the top account executives in the company. And,
special guest, Whitney Duplessis. So I'm going to let Jen introduce her daughter.
What happened there?
Little feedback.
Okay. So I don't know what was going on. And she's, now she's doing some speaking for the company and doing, lots of training and really talking about a lot of things, but specifically in social media and some other options maybe that we haven't been thinking about for MI. So what we thought we'd do today is bring her on and let her share what she's seeing in the marketplace as it relates to social media, and maybe a few just quick tips, honey. Mm-hmm. And then also some strategies maybe around MI as well. Mm-hmm. And then if you have any questions for her, certainly ask, but she's talking to loan officers every single day and giving them tips and tools that will expand their business as well. So we want her to share that with us. So why don't you go ahead and just share a few things, and be sure to look up there.
Yeah. Hi. No, thank you very much, Todd, Jen, Bliss, everybody for having me on the call. I appreciate it. We're actually at my house, so my mom is utilizing my house for the podcast, which is great. That's one of the things we hope to do as kids, is have our parents come to our home. The dynamics change, but on the surface of social media, the fantastic thing about MGIC is that we actually brought in a social media expert that we originally decided, hey, we want to amp up our social media, but with his involvement, his name is Ben Schmidt, SMIDT, if you want to look for him on LinkedIn or on Facebook. He came to MGIC and we just had to give the value. My background, ironically, was not in mortgage lending. I say I've kind of birthed into it with the experience of Jen, my mom, and my dad, Brian, and even my brother. And it was just something I wanted to venture out. So I have marketing and social media background as well. And what I love is that a lot of people are curious about it. And furthermore, for those loan officers that are on the call, if you're not interested in it, I guarantee your agents are, and they are the ones that need the resources. So if you're not doing it for them or helping them with facilitating their social media campaign strategy, you need to find those resources. And that's where really myself as an account representative in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, and even our account managers across the country, we really help with, getting in front of our loan officers, but even their agents. So don't just look at us as, low hanging fruit of a commodity of MI. I know we get that, like, we come in and you guys are thinking like, oh my God, here they come, horns. Right. But, the MI companies, and specifically MGIC, we're just so much more in tune with value adds to loan officers, to real estate partners, and the connections that we have, and specifically on the social media. I just want to remind everybody on the call, by 2021, the percentage of millennials that will be in the purchase cycle, will make up 57% of the purchase market. Yeah, so huge. And where are they? They're all around, but they are looking for referrals, and they are going to people that they trust and that they know in some capacity. Okay. And we can't get on the phone with them. Thank God Bliss is calling people and that sort of thing. But another strategy you have to have in your toolbox is being in front of them and having a social media strategy behind that.
Okay. So one of the things that you just mentioned that we've talked about a lot of times is especially with the online aggregators and in the online mortgage companies now with Zillow Mortgage and Quicken and all of those. One of the things that we talk about here in the Mortgage Coach environment is that the local expert is going to win, and someone said, what was the acronym was what Quicken can't do, right? WQCN or D, right? What Quicken can't do. And having that local expert, I think, is really, really important. So if in your experience walking around with everyone and seeing the people that you see, nationally and then in our local area, what are you finding that people are doing to become that local expert? And then doing that with, what are you seeing just generically what they're doing? And then what are you able to do to help them become that local expert? You mentioned about realtors. So how often are you going into real estate offices and speaking on behalf of or with, in tandem with the loan officer?
Yeah. So your first question, just to understand, is, community. Yeah. Find out what I always say this to loan officers, and some of it is also newer because I like to focus on, and obviously my whole book is all loan officers, but newer loan officers. Find your niche and then expand on that. So, if you are great at FHA, then be FHA, no FHA, get into the weeds of it. If you want to be a home ready, home possible expert, or in our market, with HFA programs, if you want to be a VHDA seller, then know VHDA, know all of the ins and outs. But I think the thing too is that the great thing about social media and our internet, we have our disadvantages, but there are communities out there. There are communities that you could be a part of. So if you are a mom who is a loan officer and you don't think that you have a community, there's several different apps, and I can send those out to everybody, where you can join a community and be the loan officer to moms and strollers, and build on that. And then your other question was on real estate offices. A little bit different, not all the time, because my clients are lenders, but I'm trying to focus a little bit more on the relationship with the realtors as well. They don't, shocking, you think that they do because they obviously put flyers out and they have their listings, but they don't have the same resources that MGIC, what we do to provide to our lenders, where, hey, help me with this. So are you, as a loan officer, are you asking your referral partners what they need? And it's amazing when you ask someone how to help them with their business, they will just flood you with things that you maybe have the capability and the possibility to do. And that's why I return to us, you know, and again, I'm just speaking because I work for MGIC, but you know, we do have great resources. And if you're not an expert, well, find one. They want the exposure. And then here's the other thing, post it on Facebook. That Facebook, LinkedIn, if you don't want to do Twitter, Twitter is a listening tool, it's fine. You know, post it, because then that engages so many people, and you're out there in the community, you're with a realtor, you're with a title company, you're with a CPA. And then people are going to see that, and then that expands your reach of a community beyond just what's right here, your database here.
Right, right. Todd, yep, you have a question.
All right, so expand on the Facebook group, how I can become the loan officer for moms with strollers. I mean, can you give a little detail into how you would interact if you got into a community like that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a little different, but I always think if I were a loan officer like my family, you know, I'd find those communities, right? It's a similarity, you know, and again, I bring to the point, which is what our social media director, Ben Schmidt, says. People are going to buy, and this is just products across, you know, we can, not just the mortgage industry, but specifically mortgages. They're going to buy from people that they trust and that they like, right? And if you have a commonality that you are a mom with a 2-year-old and, you know, you like to interact, then find communities that fit that criteria. If you are, you know, a Black woman who loves to bake, or you love to go hiking, find a community. And there are ways, and what I can do is I can send you, there's certain apps so you can find communities and organizations that are within your kind of geographic location.
And that's not a meetup.
It's not a meetup.
Okay.
No, it's not a meetup.
Okay.
And I would say too, is you can look on it on Facebook and start, you know, interacting with those people. But there are several apps, you know, and the other thing too is what I like is you started on social, and this is kind of, again, old school, but coming from mom, you know, is it shouldn't always be 100% social, right? So you take it from that relationship, you start the friendship, you start the connection,
right?
And then you take it away. Then you do what Bliss does. Make the phone call. You've made the interaction, you made the connection, pick up the phone. I like to pick up the phone.
So what you're saying is take your online relationship offline where you can and dig deeper.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't, you can't virtually, let's be honest. Virtual relationships are great, but there's nothing better than a $5 Starbucks coffee and really digging into a relationship and building on that.
So what do you think about having a relationship given time, right? Because we're all about productivity here. Given time, do you have a sense of whether or not that activity, because, well, I'm going to just tell you what I'm doing. I'm not going for coffee anymore. I'm just taking that online application, that online connection, and having a Zoom meeting with them, because I'm still getting to meet them personally. Mm-hmm. It allows me, and of course I'm in a different space now where I'm trying to.
I was just going to say,
I'm speaking all over the country, but a lot of the loan officers that are on the call here, right? You do loans all over the country. So why wouldn't you take someone who has that fun connection with you and have a Zoom meeting with them and say, hey, I just want to talk. So what are you guys doing with your strollers and mommies in Utah, Bliss? Because this is what I'm doing with my strollers and mommies here. And you can still get business long distance, and it makes a big difference to at least just have a Zoom meeting at minimum. So what are your thoughts on that? Does that help? Do you think that helps validate and bring that relationship closer?
It's the same thing with, kind of tying back into the social media standpoint. Yes, I would say. But in my personal opinion, there is nothing better than seeing, looking, I don't mean touching, but, having that face-to-face communication.
Right. Okay.
But, you also have to vet out the ones that are going to be prospects that are going to not waste your time, but be valuable for your quality of time, mm-hmm. right? That are actually going to turn into an ROI. They are going to turn into a purchase, a refinance, or the opportunity to mm-hmm. get in front of other purchasers, refinance, whatever it may be. And then the other thing, just on the video, if you're not posting on social media and you're comfortable in front of the video has 100 times more engagements So if you want, and I would say this for any of the viewers that are like, oh God, if I hear another social, like I post, make sure it's relevant.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like it's actually, if you're just doing it to do it because somebody told you to, maybe, you have to post 5 times. No, relevancy is key. And again, brand yourself. If you want to be an expert on something, make sure you know everything about it, right? So know everything about it and make sure it's relevant. And because again, you're going to be that person that they're going to remember, but you don't want to be remembered as that loan officer that posts all these things and I have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about that before, right here. That's really important because the only difference to make us not like a commodity is, I always say niche to grow rich, is to make sure that we're not talking about all of our products and programs and things like that. If you're going to go online and do the exact same thing that you would do to a realtor and show up and throw up, you're not going to get that same response, right? And it's intentional, right? And I think that, I don't know, that seems to be my word this year is be intentional about everything that we're doing. Just like Bliss did with her, in this big 30-day challenge that we had was it's intentional and the intention will get the results, right? Is it?
Yeah. And I think I say viewers, but your friends, they'll notice it. They'll see through the BS,
right.
If you're just,
you want to be, authentic.
What did you say? Dumping or what was it? Showing up, throw up. Yeah. I mean, they'll know that. I mean, but it's true. And we all know now, I bet there's some laughter after I say this, but we all know that one person on Facebook that does that. Now, whether they are a friend, a business, we all know that. So don't be that person. So that's why you have to be intentional, genuine, and, do videos. But also at the same time for people, if you're not comfortable on the camera, don't do it. Don't try to force yourself into something that is just not going to be bringing out your most, or get comfortable. But I mean, if it's just not you, hey, that's okay, but be intentional at least on getting the right information out there for your brand and for your customers and your referral partners too. I mean, that's a big thing as well.
All right, so let's get boring for a second. Let's talk about your top mortgage insurance strategy tip that might help someone.
Boring? We're not boring. We're so much fun.
Just saying, you just called your mom old earlier, so I can.
Well, she would have to be older to be my mother. So, I mean, that's just a fact. She's not old at all. We look like sisters more than mother and daughter. But all right, what's your question on MI? Hit me.
Well, I'm just saying, what's a great strategy that you find most loan officers overlook that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they didn't do this?
Oh yeah, it's easy. But go ahead.
Oh, it's easy?
Yeah, I know what you're going to say, but you go ahead.
All right. So, the big thing right now that I hear every single time, and it's kind of funny to me because I deal with this every single day. So it's just interesting that now loan officers are experiencing it is competition. I'm getting priced all the time, rate. And Jabron Nicholas, I had him in our market, in the DC market, and, he brought a fantastic point, which was basically, stop giving one option to a borrower and not giving them several, because if you give them one option, that of course they're going to shop.
Yeah, there's nothing to compare it
to. There's nothing to
mm-hmm.
compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's exactly the situation that we run across in the market, is that these loan officers are saying, I'm getting priced out. Okay, well, are you just giving them the cookie cutter because you do FHA that it fits into that box? Or are you giving them a holistic view of all the different options that they have, mm-hmm. that there's no intention to go anywhere else but with you, because you've given them every scenario. And I think more than ever, MI has become such an ability to get people into homes. And I think loan officers are sometimes not looking at those options, especially on an MI premium standpoint. We just made our rates even better yesterday, actually, through our, we have some clients which is on new risk-based pricing. And, I think people fail to quote and look at all the different options, whether it's a borrower monthly, borrower paid single premium, looking at that as a finance option. You know, you can do that at a 90%, go home ready or home possible. LLPA is waived. MI coverage is lower. I mean, there's so many different things in structuring your loan.
Okay, so slow down on that for a second. So I think what a lot of people do is think about home ready and home possible as 3 and sometimes 5% down. And I know that this is something I learned from you last year when I was still originating was, you know, running every single client through Freddie and Fannie's website, every single client through that website, because there's little pockets
of no income limits.
Of no income limits in neighborhoods. So you could have a 10% down client.
Oh, no. I'm going to even beat you on that.
Okay.
You can have, I mean, we've seen it a ton in our market. You can have a client that is doing, now I'll say 85% LTV. You know, I've even seen an 80.9.
Well, actually, we were actually making sure that people had PMI options because they could get a better rate.
So the GSE, so the government for Freddie and Fannie, they are pricing loans with mortgage insurance better from a rate component than going 20%. So if I were a loan officer, I would say, I would look at the option. You got a 20% down borrower that's, you know, doesn't want PMI. Well, let me run a scenario. Let's do an 81, right?
81 LTV.
81 LTV. What does that look like? Or an 85, right? Keep money in your pocket. Why are you going to put all that money down?
Divert it.
Yeah,
right. And that's what we do as a mortgage coaches. Yes. We're just trying to find the best place for money to be.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're basically going to be poor. You've depleted all of your savings to not have PMI. Well, the backside of that is the question I get all the time from loan officers is, okay, but that's for 2 years of the loan, then mortgage insurance won't go off. No, there's 2 different buckets of cancellation of MI. And furthermore, if you do a borrower paid single premium, non-refundable, under the Homebuyer Protection Act, it is still refundable within the first 5 years. So if you do an 81, they pay a little bit of that single borrower premium up front.
But it's only 1%. I mean, it's only a lesser percentage. So let's say, for example.
Yeah, it goes by the month in which that cancellation or the refundability comes in.
So you still had 4% in your pocket is what I'm saying. You're gonna put down money, right? You're keeping 4%.
Yep.
Or you gave up 4%.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to keep that there. We have to run the numbers because I think what is so cool about this, let me just tell you a story that I had.
Okay.
The borrower put 20% down and then we took $500 off of that. And so they ended up being like a
80.9 or something.
Yeah, some crazy number.
Yeah, I remember
their
this
monthly PMI was like $13 a month. Okay. And they kept that for, I believe it was 26 months, something like that. They kept $13 for 26 months because naturally, by the natural progression.
Under the Homebuyer Protection Act.
Yeah, but HEPA or HOPA.
HIPAA.
And so when they went under 80% in that 26 months, think about what they saved instead of putting that 5% down. So we redirected the 5% to pay off a little bit of debt. And then the balance of that went into starting their college fund for their kids. So they can put 5% down, or you can consider a restructure of it. And I think that's a really valid point that people are missing this. Right? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Todd, where we were saying, you know, people come in, and I was talking about entrance, holding, and exit strategies, where people come in and they say they're putting 20% down, and what a traditional loan officer does is say, okay, here's the rate. What we do as mortgage coaches is ask why. Why 20? Let's provide some options that are a little different. And, you know, that goes in line with the refis that were, you know, Bliss, when you were making your phone calls. Even though rates are higher than some of your clients, converting that loan into a shorter term might actually save them more money. And I think that's something that we all need to be thinking about, is looking out of the box. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. And I would just say, you know, we're not in an environment any longer because rates have increased, even though they've leveled out. If you're not giving your borrower options and you're not being a consultant to them, and asking them questions, then you're doing a disservice to that borrower. And that's really where you need to look out for that. And look to your advisors, look to the people around you. And I'm speaking on my own, is call your MI person and talk to them, or call a partner and talk to them. We really do have so many different resources that are beyond just MI, but we want to help you do business and get that business, right?
Right. Well, and I think, you know, everybody who's on this call, we're mortgage coaches. So we obviously are much better than the traditional loan officer who's just providing a piece of paper, an LE. The key here, I think, is whatever MI company you're comfortable with, you know, WIT represents MGIC, but whatever company that you're comfortable with or that's in your area, you know, don't close your door when you see them come in. Get your hands wrapped around the strategies that they're presenting that we just don't know about, you know, and it can be very enlightening and really change your business.
And ask them, what are they seeing in the market? What are other loan officers? And I constantly get that. What are people doing? What are people doing? And I'll let them know. And I'll say, yeah, you know, the 81, I'm telling you, I feel like we were talking about this, or we saw clients starting to do the 81% 3.5 years ago.
Right.
So if it's not getting to certain markets, look at it.
Yeah.
If you can put more money in their pocket, not having to deplete all of the money to put down for down payment or for closing costs, etc., you can say, hey, you can buy that new couch, and guarantee they're going to have to do repairs, right? You know, or something for the new home.
Right.
Save them some money, and actually you might save them in payment. Right. So take them away from
what
rate
if they could
payment.
put that 4% as a, you know, principal reduction on their student loans that everybody, you know, and especially if they're the 57%.
Or a college fund for the kid, or whatever it is. I mean, and then ask them the question. I like how Jabron did this too. I keep on bringing him up, but instead of saying, how long do you think you're going to live in this home? What's the longest you've ever lived somewhere? Right?
Right.
Changes the whole game.
30 years.
No, it changes the whole game, right? And especially for those millennials who are like, oh, this is going to be my forever condo. No, I lived in my condo for 7 years. It's probably the longest I'm going to live in a property,
right?
You know? So it just changes. So you just have to, you have to ask the right questions. So, yeah.
All right, so we got a couple of questions that came in. I would love the 81 strategy. Maybe we can talk Jen or Bliss or someone else in the community to put TCA down in the notes here so that someone who's unfamiliar with what that may look like could throw it in there. I think that would be helpful. And
that would be Bliss, because I don't need
to Jen and Whitney to get. You said there's some apps to search on Facebook for some of these groups. If we could get some of those in the I think that would be helpful. Someone's asking about Zoom. Zoom, you can get a free account, but it limits how long you can actually have a conversation for. If you buy an account, it's not very expensive. I think about $100 a year if you pay up in front. And then someone's asking Jen, and maybe you can answer it. You know, how do you script that conversation with a realtor who's too busy to come meet with you to say, hey, you want to jump on Zoom instead?
Yeah. Well, that's really easy. Hey, realtor, I would love to have you, I'd love to have a chat with you. And I know that you're very busy, and that's one of the reasons why I am calling you specifically, right? Because I want to work with others that are serious about their business. What I'd love to do in order to save both of us time is, how about we have a 5 or 10 minute quick conversation to see if there is any common interest in working together. And then from there, we can decide how we want to proceed forward and move from there, whether that's a Zoom or longer Zoom, or whether that's a meeting in person. But I'd love to have an opportunity to find out what is happening in your business right now and how I might be able to serve you.
I like that. See, that's really good. And I think in the end, you know, we've talked about it a lot here. I mean, right now, meeting with your clients face-to-face is so important for lead conversion. Every loan officer I know who's doing that is converting more. And if you can't get them in your office, then the next best thing is to get them this way, how we're all talking today on video. And I just don't think it's as hard as everybody thinks. Someone else is asking either to have a Zoom call with you, Whitney, or if you can refer them to an MGIC rep in their area. And my guess is if someone pings you on social, that you're happy to connect them with their local MGIC rep.
Of course, be happy to.
And she's Whit, not Whitney Duplessis.
Oh yeah, on Facebook it's Whit Duplessis. So you can follow me there. Yeah, so happy to interact with anybody and get you connected to the right people. And yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing, you talk about Zoom. If people don't want to have that additional cost, there's also, it's called join.me.
Yep.
Do not, www, but join.me. There are free, you can do video, but also sharing of screens and things like that as well. And hey, You could do an actual video through Facebook as well. So I don't know if you knew that, but you can actually call somebody through Facebook instead, like you would do on your iPhone or whatnot.
Just do a FaceTime.
Yeah.
Is what she's saying.
Yeah.
Through Facebook Messenger, they've got that ability. So
yeah.
I've done it on accident, maybe or maybe not.
But I mean, if you don't want to pay for the service, let's have a Facebook,
Facebook time. Yeah,
Facebook time.
Yeah.
Facebook FaceTime.
I think the key is look for whatever's least friction for you and for your client.
You don't have to sit, you don't have to do the setup that we all have and that kind of thing. Just hold up your phone and do it. The key is to take action. I'm all about that, is just take the action. Heck, I've even accidentally FaceTimed someone on instant message, and not a realtor because I wasn't doing that, but just accidentally. And the phone started ringing and I hung up, and they called me back on FaceTime. And I said, oh, hi. I said, I accidentally called you on that. And they said, well, who are you? And I said, I'm Jen. And I said, well, who are you? And we ended up having a really nice conversation, someone who would be like an affiliate for me, and what I'm doing, partner. And so it was just kind of goofy. So you could always make fun with it too and say, oops, I didn't mean to dial you,
Yeah.
Hey, do whatever you have to do, right?
All right, so we're rolling into the last quarter of our call here. So if you guys have any questions for Bliss, for Whit, for Jen, or myself, get them in. One of the things I wanted to throw out there, because people were asking Bliss what her call goal was, and she said down in the chat that it was 60 calls a month before, and now she's going to up it to 100. So it reminded me the fact that Dave and I are hosting a call on May 21st on Tuesday. It's called Setting the Standard. And there's a great podcast that Jocko Willink just did. It's his podcast number 174, where he talks about the standards in the military and the Navy. And actually, he's actually given a hat tip to the Marines. And so it's a great podcast to listen to. Dave and I would love you to listen to it and then join us then, because ultimately, Dave set a standard with the 30-10 competition, 30 calls, 10 TCAs a week. I don't believe one size fits all. I actually think that 30 number scared a lot of you away. And I think the key is to figure out what is your standard, what do you need to do to get there. And so I would encourage you guys to join us for that call. And I always want to give it a plug because Dave will harass me if I don't. But I'm looking again to see if there's any additional questions. So let's go back to social media for a second, Whitney. Is there any social media post that you've seen a loan officer, a realtor, an MI rep do that's gotten a lot of interaction?
Specific. Yeah, something specific. And maybe after that, hashtags, but be specific. Have you seen someone post something and they're like, they get a lot of responses from it, or?
Actually, well, I'll just speak to one that was kind of very interesting. I did not think I would get as much interaction, but it was pertaining to actually realtors, which was the whole stigma of, the Redfin and the fact that, the value. And I said, hey, realtors, what do you think about this? Realtor friends. And the amount of interaction. So going back,
was it a video or a question?
It was an article basically saying that, that Redfin is going to be taking over the market and how great it is, and that, and just the amount of realtors that were like, well, I want to see them wake up at 7 o'clock and try to, get in front of, because you got to make it work to get your buyer into a house before they go to work. And, just one of those things. And it's the same thing for a loan officer. So I think a really good thing is we need to start asking questions.
So find an article that may stir the pot a little bit, and then post the article and just ask the question.
Do a video and say, my intentional question is X, and comment below. And it's amazing how, I think I got 2 appointments from that one post. Again, I took it offline, started online, I took it offline, and it was amazing to kind of get the perspective. And I was,
Did you get 2 appointments with realtors?
With realtors.
Ha 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 ha. So our MI rep is getting appointments with realtors by making a post that's specific to realtors. Because I think one of the things that we do when we're doing our videos is we've been focusing on that content that it's directed to clients, right? So this is another aspect of it, is find where their pain is, what's bothering them in their industry, and then sort of disrupt, right? As Jeremy always says, disrupt the industry. Be a disruptor to get attention. And so I love that. Yeah.
And well, and again, I'm in front of, you know, where I said, I get the question all the time from loan officers, you know, they'll ask me now is like, what's going on in the market? Well, if I don't know what's going on directly with their referral partners, who for the majority, that's your, 50% or more should be coming from your referral partners, which means your realtors, right? And if I don't know what the realtors in my community are doing, how can I be effectively helping my clients? So it was very interesting. And, you know, little things like just knowing about, appraisals and things that I technically don't. This is where I think a lot of people, we know a lot of stuff. We got to know everything sometimes and just be in tune with what's going on. But yeah, I got 2 appointments from that. And I got an appointment with, you know, I went to a client event and met a former GCAR, so the greater city area realtors for the Washington, D.C. area, former president, and I got an appointment with them. But I want to know. Right. Because it's so important. And talk about community. That's a community. It's relative to me. Right. Realtors are important to me because they're important to my clients.
Right.
So yeah. Questions.
That's a huge aha moment. That's a huge aha moment, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think questions create interaction. I'm not one about controversy. I wouldn't say like, let's not post political questions.
No. But disruption.
Filters are going to be.
Yeah, do not.
Right.
I will say one thing for the entire audience. If you want to completely eliminate a certain percentage of your book of business, then go ahead and talk about hot button items. Right. But I would stay away from, and we always say this, is politics, religion, and money. Now, we talk about money, but make sure that you are staying away from that. Politics, religion, and money. Don't talk about how much money you made, and that you can talk about your successes of the mortgage industry, but you should stay away from those things, because we now, in that social media atmosphere, we're in a community where people can literally just turn you off and goodbye for one thing that you say. So stay away from that. And that's why having a business page is critical. If you want to keep yourself separate on Facebook or on another, you know, even Instagram, you can brand yourself. You talk about hashtags, you can brand yourself. There's 2 girls in Greenbelt who actually went to NAMBA. Christine Cole and Amy Dixon, to be specific. They branded themselves as the Mortgage Boss Girls.
Right, Mortgage Boss.
Mm-hmm. And it's great, and that's everything that they do. So, you know, find your brand, find your name, and make sure it's specific.
You know, one of the things, I was in LA speaking with Les Brown. And one of the, not him, but I mean, I shouldn't have said that. There was another guy that was speaking, and he said, if you can't deliver your message in 3, so it's 3 hashtags or less, your 3 hashtags should represent your message. So I thought that was kind of interesting, right? And that's a branding thing too. Yeah. So it's like, woo. So start thinking about that, is what 3 hashtags would explicitly tell people what you do, your niche, your values, your philosophy. What 3 hashtags sum you up so that people understand, you know, who you are. And then I'd lead with every one of those, because one of the things that I learned is 3 hashtags is enough. Not 4, not 5, not 12. 3 hashtags will get you the most responses and reviews. Just 3 hashtags.
And tagging too, I can't tell you how important that is. Again, you want to talk about exposure. If you're not tagging your partners, you got to ask them, of course, or make sure they're okay with that. But tagging the people that, you know, if you are out to lunch and you're having coffee, you take a picture of coffee. Having my, you know, quarterly meetup with Bliss. Tag Bliss.
Yeah.
Tag whoever you're with, because it just shows your intention of continuing to do business, but also you're out there in the community, and then it reaches those other people.
Well, and it's exposure for them too.
Yeah.
To bring to them as well.
So one thing we should mention, we mentioned at the onset of the call that Jen and I were just at NAMBA last week, their Connect conference. That's the National Association of Minority Mortgage Bankers of America. And so I would throw it out there. Tony Thompson, who runs the organization, does really a great job.
Yeah.
And encourage all of you, the one challenge that they have is marketing, and their annual event's not going to be till next April again, but they will have some regional events in the fall. So if you're not following nambaconnects.org, I would encourage you to do it because they get amazing speakers and they don't get the turnout I think that they should have. And so I would just start watching to see if they're going to come to your area. And if you're a loan officer, bring your real estate agent as well. Ironically, even though it says mortgage in the name, a big percentage of their group are real estate agents as well. But I found it to be a really valuable conference to be hanging out at. I obviously had the opportunity to speak, but I actually felt like I got more value out of the opportunity to sit in on some of the panels and hear some of the other top producers speak who were there.
And you don't have to be a minority to join either.
No, my husband's
I would just
white
encourage
bald
that
guy.
too. Yeah, white male bald guy.
My husband's a white bald guy, and he's involved. So let me tell you a couple of things about NAMBA. So I've been involved since the very beginning. If I'm not mistaken, and I could be, and I apologize, Tony, I think it's $47 a year to be a member.
Yeah, it's cheap. I think it's even less than that. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it might be 37, but it's $47 a year. And here's what you get with it. It's diversity, and we're growing, right? Our whole world is growing, and we have such a melting pot in every branch, every office, every state. We have all this diversity, and there's so much value in being able to connect with people that we're all open to it. I had a conversation with someone I was doing a strategy session with, and, she said, I'm the only African-American in my office. And I said, in your loan officers?
And female too.
The only African-American in her entire office, underwriters, receptionists, manager, everybody. And she's the only female as well. And she said, I wish I could get more business from African-American people because, they want to work with, their like mind. And I said, gee, isn't that interesting? I said, because if I'm a white woman, then how come I don't have every white woman realtor? Why isn't that happening for me? So we were able to talk about that diversity and that reverse sort of thought process. And she's like, gosh, I never thought about that. Why, so I really like that. There's also a leadership academy. So you can go through a 1-year leadership academy. So if you're looking to grow your practice and, level up your leadership skills, there's a whole academy that is brought in, and that will help you with diversification as well. And what I really loved is he brought in 200 students from area universities. One of the things that they really focus on is bringing new blood into the mortgage business. So if for $47 a year, you could have access to new blood if you are interested in hiring new loan officers and support staff.
So again, it's NAMBA, NAMMBA connects with an S on it, .org.
Right, .org. And NAMBAconnect.org. Yeah. So it was fantastic. I loved it.
All right, so it's time to wrap up. It's really sad. Whitney, you crushed it. Again, I put it in the Facebook feed. If someone
mother like daughter, or like daughter like mother. So thank you for having me on.
I had no doubt at all.
Oh, thanks.
And those of you who want to get connected with your MGIC rep in your area, just reach out to Whit Duplessis out on social, and she would be happy to connect to you. If you guys have comments down below, we'll continue to monitor it. I got to congratulate Bliss Sawyer again. Bliss just totally crushed it. I'm going to unmute her so she could say goodbye to the crew. But come on, the winner of the 30-10 championship.
And the crowd goes wild.
Well, there's a lot of great prizes. So, cashing that check from Wally, that was pretty good.
Here's the crazy thing, Todd. That makes a difference. That's when I went to my team. I'm like, there's $1,000 on the line. If I win, we're all splitting it 4 ways. We're going to the mall, having dinner, and we're shopping. So
nice.
Those silly, I can go to the mall and go shopping. I got credit cards. I'm good, right? But if you're thinking about doing that realtor blitz idea that Jen had, have there be some prizes. It does make a difference.
Yeah, it's really good. Plus you get an hour with me. You get an hour with Dave. And you get to go ride horses at Michelle if you want to do that.
That one was the most exciting to me. I think there's drinking wine with Jeremy Forcier and Napa. That's pretty darn good too. So,
you get a lot of stuff.
That's awesome. Never been to Napa.
That's free next year. So I think that was really awesome. In fact, it's funny because in my I'm going to be toying around with some challenge ideas for you all here for some other attainable ones going forward. So stay tuned on that. As always. Super grateful for all of you taking time out of your Fridays, right? You guys could be dialing, maybe should be dialing. So maybe you're watching this on video, but appreciate you all being here. You know, as always, Jen, it's fabulous. It was fun to hang out with you in real life last week. It's always great to see you here on Friday. Thanks to Marcy, our Wizard of Oz behind the curtains, for making us all look great. Bliss, again, for taking time to be here.
And we missed you, Dave.
And yes, and of course, on behalf of Dave Savage and the whole entire mortgage crew, I'm Todd Bookspan from Win by Noon. Thanks for being here this Friday. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.